Welcome back, everyone. As most of you people know, that I went ahead and bought pretty much all the Xbox Series X's, the Series S's, and what I want to do is compare the Xbox Series S against all the predecessors, which are the Xbox 360 lineup, and I actually own all the Xbox 360's, so I figured what better time to compare them than right now. And what I can tell you is that honestly, there's a lot of pros, there's a lot of cons, and I will tell you, I personally do miss the Xbox 360 lineup. Those consoles were super crazy. I mean, just to think, we had like the Kinect, we had tons of games that were released during the whole life cycle of the 360, and even now, when you look at even the most up-to-date Xbox 360, which was the Xbox 360e, that thing still looks extremely like nice. It doesn't look that old at all. When I look at the original Microsoft Xbox, that thing didn't really look the best. It looked nice and looked cool, and it's kind of like a vintage thing. But when you look at something like the 360, it still looks pretty modern no matter which Xbox 360 you look at. And I feel like that design language was something that was so, impactful for that specific console. I feel like with the Xbox 360S, that was also a really nice looking console. And I feel like that was probably one of the more unique ones when it came out to the whole Xbox 360 lineup. And when you look at something like the Xbox Series S, most probably, you're not going to necessarily look at that console and, 10 years from now, look at the Xbox Series S again and be like, oh, like that was a revolutionary design, even with the Xbox Series X, unfortunately. But with the 360 lineup, you could really look at each one of those consoles and be like, wow, that console looked really cool at the time. I think the 360e, even though it kind of looked the best in my opinion, it didn't really look the most unique, whereas the 360S, in my opinion, did look the best. And it's kind of funny looking at the 360S, looking at the Series S, and looking at all the advantages and disadvantages for all of them. Now, obviously, the Xbox Series S is the most expensive console out of all of them. The Series S brand new costs $299. I did pick mine up for retail price, which I'm really happy about. But, most probably a lot of people out there will not be able to purchase it brand new. You'll probably have to end up paying a little bit more money for it. And I've seen it in a lot of cases where a lot of people just aren't able to get their hands on it. And they have to spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars extra of what it would have cost retail. And with the 360 lineup, you can probably pick up all three of these for less than $100. If I'm being completely honest, these consoles do not cost that much anymore. Last year, I was able to buy the 360S and 360E for, I believe, less than $50 each. And that was extremely good because they came with controllers. They came with a lot of stuff. And I'll be honest, it wasn't really that big of a deal. I just had to go on eBay, pick it up, and that was it. Whereas on the Series S, I had to plan out my whole day around this whole entire console, even the day before, to make sure I could go and pick it up and all that good stuff. And even the day I had to pick it up was totally different. So the ordering process is completely different. However, I do remember when the Xbox 360, the original, came out, I was hearing so many stories about that console of people trying to pick it up and they weren't able to. And that was a revolutionary design and just console overall. And to think about now and just this day and age that we are still going through the same exact thing, it's so funny. And that makes me think 10 years from now, we're going to look back at the Xbox Series S and be like, wow, we can literally just go wherever and pick these up. Nobody even wants them anymore because they're so old. It's so crazy literally how time flies. But I will tell you, for the future of these consoles, the Xbox Series S is going to have a better future. Obviously, these 360s I think are all outdated. I don't think they're getting any more software updates. However, there's still some advantages for the Xbox 360s, all of them. And I think the biggest advantage for those consoles would probably end up being the disc slot that every single one of these consoles have, which is extremely funny. The port selections vary kind of on all of them. For the most part, they all have HDMI ports. They both have USB ports and all that stuff, Ethernet ports as well. But the biggest advantage for the 360 lineup for all of them is the disc slot, in my opinion. You can easily go on Craigslist, eBay, wherever the case is, and pick up all these used games for these consoles. Now, granted, the Series S is backwards compatible to some 360 games, but the 360 had a lot of beautiful games for this console, and you won't really be able to play them on the Series S natively with a disc. Whatever games are supported in the store, then you can go download them straight from there, but not all of them are there, which is very sad. So really, when it comes down to it, you have a huge plethora of games that you can choose from on the Xbox 360 that is a smaller game library. I would say the graphics may not be as good as the Series S games, but at least you're getting that disc slot, and you can pick up these games for pennies on the dollar. Probably not, but like you can get them for much cheaper, and you can get them from anywhere rather than just going from the Microsoft store and downloading them from there every single time. So that's another big deal in my opinion. However, one humongous thing for the Series S is that it is able to output in 4K, which is awesome. Unfortunately, no Xbox 360s could do it. But again, you will have to have a 4K TV and all that crazy stuff too. And I will tell you, for the most part, I mean, I still play some 360 games here and there, like Halo 3. Those games are such beautiful games still, and they hold up extremely well. The fact that that's still like, that high graphic of a game that came out, over 10 years ago, I think over 15 years ago or something like that, like that's a really beautiful game to still play. The graphics are great. Everything about that game is awesome. And that's why those consoles, in my opinion, have held up so well. And even with the Xbox 360e that came out in 2013, you have to keep in mind that that was kind of like the successor to the Xbox One. Obviously, it was the successor to the Xbox One, but that was a beautiful console at that time, and it still is a beautiful console. And sometimes when I look at even my own footage of the 360e, I get it confused with the original Xbox One. I just find so many similarities between them. Obviously, I see the Xbox 360 on the front, but aesthetically, that is still a really good looking console, and it still holds up pretty well. The Series S, I think, still completely holds up well, as well in terms of the aesthetic of it, but I feel like the whole entire 360 lineup probably even looks better than the whole entire Xbox One lineup, in my opinion. The 360S included the original 360 and the 360e. Those are some really unique consoles, like I stated, and I don't want to go back in a circle, but that's something that really, really means a lot to me, in my opinion. Now, controller-wise, I'm pretty sure we all know, I feel like the Xbox 360 controllers were probably one of the best controllers ever, and they felt so good in the hand. They had a really nice heft to them, and I'll be honest, even with the Xbox Series S controller, I like it, and it's definitely better. You have USB-C on it and everything like that, but I don't think anything could ever take away from the Xbox 360 controller. That was such a nice controller at that time, and when you look at that controller and you look at the Series S controller, there's still so many similarities. You have pretty much the same exact layout on both. Obviously, you now have more buttons on the 3 Series S controller, but that still doesn't take away the fact of what Microsoft was able to do back then, and how well and just how they knocked it out of the park, and how they pretty much recycle that same design of the controller over and over and over and over again to this specific controller segment too. So I will tell you, the controller on that 360 has completely held up, and it's one of its biggest advantages for sure. And the fact that they redesigned it a little bit here and there, but it's still pretty much the same design, is pretty awesome. You look at the PlayStation 3 controller and you look at the PlayStation 5 controller, completely different controllers for the most part. Yeah, the buttons are wherever in the same place and stuff, but the controllers look totally different. And that's why I think with the 360, it just looks so much like the Series S, for better or for worse, but that's still a really cool thing about it. Now, you also have a lot of modding capabilities for the Xbox 360 lineup. I'm pretty sure you can do anything you want to. You can probably install Windows and stuff on these Microsoft Xboxes. Like, it's crazy the things you can do, I'm sure. But at the end of the day, the Series S is a more capable gaming console. You have an SSD built in, you have way more RAM, I'm pretty sure. And you have just a humongous gaming library on this gaming console too. And that's why the Series S is obviously the better console. I've said it since the beginning of this video. But that still doesn't take away the things that, the specific console was able to do at that time. The 360, I think, means a lot more to the whole entire Microsoft atmosphere than the Series S or Series X ever will. And even if you look at, maybe not the original Xbox One, but if you look at like the One X, even the One S, all the 360, even if you look at the 360S or 360E, those are definitely good consoles, but the one that we always remember are the original ones. We always remember the 360, the first one that came out. I didn't even know that much about the 360E, barely even the 360S. I knew the most about the 360, the original one, and now with the Xbox One, we kind of look at that one as that kind of the originator, and then we look at the One S and the One X, but honestly, I think a lot more people fell in love with the One S, to be honest, and that kind of makes me think with this console genre, the series lineup, are we going to look at the Series S and X as the originators like we saw with the 360? Or are we going to look at, the second console, kind of like how I viewed the Xbox One lineup, how I saw the One S as kind of the, main one in a way? Or are we going to look at the last lineup, is it like 1, 2, 3? Is the third and the best Xbox Series console, is that one going to be the one that we look back 10 years from now and be like, yes, that was the best one, that was the originator, that was the one that everyone knows about? And it makes me think, but I will tell you, when you look back from the Xbox Series as the latest and greatest, and you compare it to something that came out many, many years ago, I think 2006 or whatever was this 360, maybe even earlier, we can definitely see some improvements, but it's also very interesting to see the similarities. The controllers look the same. The box design of the 360E kind of is still recycled over to the Series S. We look at the overall lineup and port selection. A lot of things have changed, but some things have stayed consistent, and even we've seen some ports go down. From the front of the 360, we had 2 USB ports. Now we only have 1 on the back. now we only have one on the front. And it's very interesting to see the things that have changed, the things that have stayed the same, but I will definitely tell you, in my opinion, for sure, the Series S is the best console. It's the better one out of all these, but the original 360s, man, it just doesn't really get much better than that. When you look at it and just feel the nostalgia that comes from having these older consoles, there's definitely no feeling like it, and I would definitely tell you, the Series S may be a better console right now, but the original 360s will probably have a bigger impact on the whole entire gaming industry than the Series S, probably, in my opinion. So that pretty much covers it up. If you guys have any other questions or anything, let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that would mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. Every single subscriber that we get really does count, so it means so much if you guys can hit that. Also check out the other links down in the description as well. My Twitter, my Instagram, my other channels. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.